Welcome to the Whitehall Wire. I'm your host, Megan Meyer. On this episode of the Whitehall Wire, I'll be joined by Deputy Chief of Police, Tracy Sharpless. Deputy Chief Sharpless oversees the Detective Bureau, as well as the Administrative Bureau, which includes Whitehall's Dispatching Center, Property Room, and Clerical Unit. With National Telecommunications Week just behind us, I've asked Deputy Chief Sharpless to join me today to dive into the nuts and bolts behind our dispatching center, which took over 56,000 calls for service in 2022 alone. After our interview, I'll explain proposed legislation being considered by City Council during Council Corner, and then share some reminders on spring cleanup. All this and more on this episode of the Whitehall Wire. Deputy Chief Sharpless, thank you for joining me today.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I know that earlier in April, the Division of Police celebrated the National Telecommunicators Week. So it's fitting that this week we're diving into your role as a Deputy Chief and to the Dispatch Center, which is one of the many things that you oversee here in Whitehall. So can you speak to the importance of professional, efficient dispatchers and the overall success of the Division of Police?
Yes, thanks. As you know, National Telecommunicators Week, that's when we recognize our 911 dispatchers. They're the people who answer those calls from people when they're really going through difficult times, having some of the worst moments in their life. Mm-hmm. It's a very difficult and stressful job. It's important for our dispatchers to be able to maintain their composure, while the person on the other end of the line is really struggling.
Yeah.
I want to mention that we do have a local dispatcher. Her name's Audrey Briggs. She's up in Sandusky, Ohio today. She's been nominated as 911 Dispatcher of the Year for the state of Ohio. We're proud of her. We won't know if she actually wins until probably later on this afternoon, but just being nominated is a real honor in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. And if I forget to mention it, a big thank you to all of our emergency dispatchers, because I do know the vital role they play in keeping you guys where you need to be on the street and, dispatched effectively.
Absolutely.
So what are some ways, other than just giving their thanks, that the community can share their support for our dispatchers?
Well, I know that our dispatchers really, they don't ask for much, but not every call that comes in the police department is an emergency. We do receive a lot of non-emergency calls. I would just ask that people recognize that they do have a stressful job. They're very busy. Just be patient, be kind, and if you receive good service, just tell them thank you.
Absolutely. So what are some of the challenges that our dispatch center and our dispatchers are facing these days?
Sure, we are facing a number of challenges. Number one is probably obsolete equipment by far. Most of the equipment in there, probably one of the most important pieces in a dispatch center is a radio console.
Okay.
Our consoles are over 20 years old. Sometimes our dispatchers have difficulty hearing people when they call in. Sometimes they have difficulty transmitting to the officers. That's a major problem in an emergency dispatch center.
So when, let's say something isn't working exactly correctly, how is that managed internally?
We do have an IT department, an information technology department, but we have to contact them. They have to come out. They need to try to assess the situation. Unfortunately, our consoles, again, being so old, they no longer make them. There are no parts available, so they do have to just kind of do the best they can to try to get them back online. Worst case scenario, we have to transfer our calls to Gehenna, which is just going to result in a delay in service, unfortunately.
Okay, absolutely understood. So am I correct in saying that as part of issue 10, which is the Safer Whitehall levy, if that is approved, one of the renovations would be of the dispatch center, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
What would that entail?
Well, actually, the three challenges that I was going to mention, one besides obsolete equipment is space.
Okay.
Our building was built in the early 70s. I'm sure it was a wonderful building in 1970, not so much nowadays.
Sure.
The dispatch center was a room made for one person to answer the phone and dispatch officers. Nowadays, we have 3 people in there, each dispatcher having 6 different computers, 6 different monitors, and a number of cameras that they have to watch. It's just not made for 3 people and for policing these days. The last thing that we're struggling with is hiring. We're actually short a couple dispatchers right now. We're competing against other agencies here in Franklin County. Just like police officers, everybody's short on dispatchers as well. One of our downfalls is that most of the agencies around us, the Reynoldsburg, Gahanna, and Bexley, they all have new facilities. So really when we're competing for the same people, clearly they're going to make a choice whether they want to come to our dispatch center or one of these newer facilities.
Absolutely, understood. So if issue 10 is approved and we are able to renovate and expand the dispatch center, we would be able to potentially fit more dispatchers and upgrade the equipment. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There would be a lot more square footage in the new dispatch center. There would be room to expand in the future if needed. I guess one of the biggest problems with having 3 dispatchers in a room that was initially made for 1 is that people talking over one another.
Right.
We need some space to separate them so they can concentrate on the call that they're on.
Right. No, I mean, that makes plenty of sense. Just thinking about open concept offices anymore, you can hear everything going on in the room. And so to separate them out definitely makes sense. And it's good to know that should Whitehall's population increase or the call volume increase, the potential renovation would future-proof the dispatching center.
Absolutely,
component.
the square footage would be there.
Absolutely. So kind of switching gears a little bit away from the dispatching center, you have been with the Whitehall Division of Police for 28 years, which is absolutely outstanding. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What is your favorite part about serving the Whitehall community?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the challenge has always been trying to overcome this false stigma that somehow Whitehall is a less desirable area. We know and our residents know that the vast majority of crime in Whitehall, probably 85 to 90%, is committed by people outside the city.
Yeah.
So we're really not at odds with our citizens here in Whitehall, so we receive tremendous support from them. Most of our citizens, they just want to live their lives and not be the victim of a crime. So that's where additional officers might come into play.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you for your service, and thank you to all the Whitehall dispatching team for everything that you do. To learn more about our dispatchers, the Whitehall Division of Police, or Issue 10, the Safer Whitehall Levy, please visit the city's website.
Do you have what it takes for a career in media? If you have a passion for it, either on camera or behind the scenes, Ohio Media School can train you in just 8 short months to finally work in the field you've always dreamed of. TV and radio, music, social media, and so much more. Get paid to create. Learn from the pros and visit beonair.com with flexible class schedules, hands-on training, and financial aid for those who qualify. There's a reason thousands have come here to start their career in media. Get started now by visiting us online at beonair.com or call 614-723-9675.
Welcome back to Council Corner. On May 17th, City Council will consider an ordinance designating Juneteenth as an official city holiday. If approved, city offices would be closed Monday, June 20th in observance of the holiday on Sunday, June 19th. For those unfamiliar with the holiday, Juneteenth is now a federally recognized commemoration of the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. For those wanting to learn more about what's being considered by City Council, meeting agendas and packets are available online. All meetings have resumed to welcoming guests in person and can also be watched live on the city's Facebook page. Moving to upcoming events and announcements, spring cleanup is officially upon us. There are multiple components to spring cleanup this year. First, the last week in April and the first week of May, residents are welcome to host yard sales and garage sales without the need for a permit. Second, Parks and Recreation is still looking for volunteers for their 2 Earth Day cleanup days this Friday, April 22nd and Saturday, April 23rd. Sign up for your preferred day on the city's website. Third, also on Saturday, April 23rd, the City Service Department is hosting our second recycling drop-off day at Whitehall Community Park. We encourage you to consider what items you can donate or recycle before sending them to the landfill. Acceptable items range from houseware to electronics to paint to cardboard. Find a full list of acceptable items on the city's website. Finally, the first unlimited collection day of the year is coming up on Wednesday, May 4th. A reminder to please wait to place your items to the curb until Tuesday evening. Small items should be bagged, and we encourage you to arrange bags and large items in a row as opposed to piles. Get more details and find a list of acceptable items online on the city's website. That's a wrap on updates from the city. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Whitehall Wire.